Hey, this is Lachance here. I'm going to walk through fixing a really simple Perfherder bug. For the sake of this live coding exercise, I'm just going to assume that you know what Perfherder is. If you don't, just find your way to the wiki page that you see right here. So a couple days ago, Joel Marr was using Perfherder to triage uplift alerts when merging from Mozilla Central to Aurora and then Aurora to Beta, and you notice that clicking on the branch names inside the Perfherder Graphs UI doesn't work anymore. So we filed this bug 1269842. So you see in this description, I would really like to click the branch name and magically add other branches, for example, this URL. So let's open that. So we see here that there's the branch name on next to the series right here. And in theory, you should be able to click on this and it should load the other branches automatically. This doesn't currently work. You see that this just happens. So that's not very good. And then you see on the bug, I said 3 days ago, yeah, I've noticed this bug myself. It needs to be fixed. We'll look into it tomorrow. Well, it isn't tomorrow. It's actually 3 days later, but hey. Let's better late than never, right? So let's just get right into it. So let me just give you a flavor for this first. Let me just give you an idea of what really is supposed to happen by showing you a similar feature which still does work. So let's just load up TP50 summary, my favorite Perfherder series for Linux 64. Add it to the graphs. Wait. Okay, so this is like all the results for this page that loads, I don't know, 50 or 60 websites, times them, and then we sort of see what the result is, how long it took on average for them to load. So here's like just the distribution of the results as Gecko changes. It kind of artificially looks really noisy just because they're actually, well, just because of the zoom level of the graph, but actually like this is relatively stable. So anyway, so like if we can, you see here that there's these things that are links. If you click on them, it'll open up this handy window, add test data, similar to what you saw earlier when I added the graph in the first place. And you see here that here we have the same series on the same branch, but for different platforms: OS X, Windows XP, Windows 7 32, Windows 8 64. So we kind of want the same thing here, except we want the same series, same platform, but different branch. So what's going on here? Why isn't that working? Why is that just leading us to this empty page? So in cases like this, what I usually like to do is open up a network panel. Sorry, going back to the original. Oh, look, what's this? Okay, well let's just reload the whole thing. Okay. Let's load the developer console, not the network panel, rather. Okay, so so branch, click on that. Oh, what's this? Big exception. Okay, what's going on? It says error, related series not defined. It says add related branches. Oh, and it's in this minified JavaScript. What the hell's going on? How are we ever going to solve this? Well, it turns out that Perfherder has this handy local node.js server which you can use to debug stuff. So I'm just going to run that. This is all, just setting that up is all described in the Perfherder documentation. The only thing that you have to do is you have to make sure that you have a local.conf.js and UI/js/config, which is pointing at a production or the stage environment. I think by default this doesn't exist, so you need to set it up when you're first getting that working. But once you do, you can just hack on the Perfherder UI without setting up the whole thing. It just sets up this local web server which just serves the UI and nothing else. So, okay, so let's just jump back to the bug. Let's open this thing. Okay, so the local server is running on localhost :8000. So let's just take this, substitute the local server. Wait. Okay, so this is loading data from the production server, but it's using the HTML and JavaScript from the local one, and you see it loaded just fine. And the local version has non-minified versions of the JavaScript and HTML, which is really good for debugging a problem like this. So Let's just throw all that log spam in the garbage and then press this again. Okay. Yada, yada, yada. Error related series not defined, same as we saw before. Okay, it looks like it's the problems appearing in js/controllers/perf/graphs.js, line 927. So let's just open that up. .927, all right. Okay, so this is this fun function called add related branches. Okay, so it has this original series. And okay, so where's related series defined? Nowhere. Well, that's silly. Well, how about this is, I think, the easiest bug in the world. I wonder who broke it in the first place. It was probably me doing a renaming, going on a renaming binge for some other reason and not changing this. So let's see. Let's just change that to original series, which is probably this. At one point, original series here is a related series, and it just worked. So let's give that a go. Actually, there's some formatting and indentation problems that I tend to OCD on, but let's just ignore that. Unfortunately, we have another bug well, actually, I guess in Perfherder where sometimes the URL gets messed up. So in that case, we kind of have to go back to where we were before, but I think this will just work. Okay, tree herder. Okay, let's just reload. Okay. Actually, I guess the URL string got messed up because it didn't complete the action, but like sometimes even still, this doesn't persist properly. We're using this really old AngularJS router thing, which was stopped being maintained last year or something, and Perfherder is actually rather complex, and it kind of stretches that thing to its limits. I've been thinking about using the new Angular router in version 1.5, or maybe it's in 1.6 now, I don't even know, but I just haven't gotten around to it. This might be something fun for a contributor to do at some point. But anyway, okay, so here we are. Okay, so we've just reloaded the thing with my attempted fix. Let's see if it did the job. Oh, no, it didn't. It says error scope test.test.add is undefined. Okay. So let's just look at line 940. Scope test to add. Okay. This isn't good. So there's this variable. So for those of you who don't know, Angular has this wonderful variable called scope, which is just basically like this global name. Well, not totally global, but like this namespace for your controller that you can just stuff variables into and use. I think it's pretty horrible, but you know, anyway, there it is. I mean, the nice thing about adding something to scope is that then, if you have a controller which you define in HTML, you can sort of bind things inside the HTML and it will automatically pick that stuff up, which is kind of a neat trick. But anyway, so we have this variable test to add, and it doesn't exist, probably because we took it out at some point because we thought it wasn't needed anymore. Or it could be that we just renamed it, which it looks like we did. Okay, so here if we look above, add related platforms, it's called test to add. So I guess I probably renamed it, or somebody renamed it without testing thoroughly enough to make sure everything had been renamed. That's a real shame. But anyway, all we needed to do was add an S, right? So now it's going to work. Well, let's see. Let's put that to the test. All right. Okay. We don't want the. We want the. Okay. It's the localhost one. Let's try that. Okay. Well, that's not very happy. Did it just not find anything? Well, this is all pretty disappointing. Okay, so I think there's some other fundamental problem here. Okay, so let's go back up. So we have this thing called branch list to each performance branches. That's a variable defined here, which defines the branches which we think might have performance data, so we can avoid iterating through every single project in Treeherder, of which there are like 20 or 30 at this point. Go through all of them. We add the branches that we want to grab stuff from. Okay, except for the ones that are in the original. Get each series' data from remote and use promise to ensure each step will be executed after last on has finished. Okay. I'm guessing that some of this stuff hasn't really been tested recently. This is why UI tests are important and why we should have them in Perfherder, but we don't. All right, so what I like to do here is I'm going to use my tried and true method of console debugging. So let's see what series is. So what this function is it's saying it takes a list of promises, and then when they're all fulfilled, it will call this function, which actually really doesn't seem right to me, because I think it's going to return a list of the results of this promise, but we're treating it as a single one. So I don't know. Let's just but let's just see what the output of that function is. I mean, sometimes it's easier just to test what something's doing than to understand what it's doing from first principles, if that makes any sense. Let's just dive in, see what's happening. Okay, so let's just go back, reload. Did I save it? Yes, I saved it. Okay. So Mozilla Beta, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, so we got a list of arrays, right? So as I thought, okay, so that's a list of the results of the different promises, and yet we're treating them as if it was a single promise returning, which really doesn't make any sense. So really this should be saying something like series list or something like that. So, okay, so I think we kind of actually, I think what we just want to do here is flatten this. And I think because you see we have like this list of individual series objects, which have all the stuff that we want. See, this one's inbound, which is a different branch. This one's central, yada, yada. So what we really want is we just kind of want to take out these intermediate arrays and just have a single one. So I think Angular has this wonderful function called flatten, which I think will just do that for us. Right. Actually, what I like to do is, I could have looked at the documentation, but sometimes it's easier just to test if you think that you know what you're doing. I often think I know what I'm doing, even though I don't. Ah, flatten, all right, 0, 1. Isn't that nice? Okay, so if we run that against this, we should just get something nice. Let's give that a go. Oops, all right. Boom, 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 boom. Aha, look at that. Apparently we're running this on Mozilla Inbound. Does that make sense? I guess so, it's PGOETNS. I'm kind of surprised we're not seeing that on FX Team. Oh, haha. Because we're only pushing the first because of more busted logic. So I think we actually want, no, that's not right. Okay, so joining two arrays together in JavaScript, it's always so much fun. I think once again Lodash has something, or see, okay, well say you have an array like this, right? 1, 0, 1. I love how I'm just showing what a total amateur I am in this video. Okay, so an array with 2 elements. So if we concatenate another array on it, we get that as a return value, but the original stays the same. So I guess what we're going to do is we're going to do scope tests to add. Actually, this is really silly. Okay, why are we? This variable should only ever, we don't need to add stuff to it. We should, this should be a clean sweep. So even if this variable was set before, which I don't think it ever would be, we just want to set the variable. We don't need to do anything fancy. So clone, I don't remember even why that needs to happen, because I think, why would this even be modified? I'm just going to take that out. Oops, where was I? Okay. Yeah, let's just take this all out. Dum 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 dum. Actually, let's just, there we go. Dum dum dum. All right, so I simplified a bunch. Maybe it's too much for my own good. I don't even know. Let's give it a try. Let's see how this is doing. Still loads. That's a good sign. Let's press this. Oh, and look at that. We have the test for all the different branches. Weirdly enough, it's still showing the test for Mozilla Central, even though that's already there, which is kind of disturbing, although I think that was probably a pre-existing bug. Well, I'm curious I think we need to fix that, because this shouldn't be in there, I don't think. But let's try clicking add and seeing what happens. My guess is that it's going to add Mozilla Inbound and FX Team, and then since this should already be added, unless there's a terrible bug in Perfherder, so we should have 4 series. Oh, so that's quite interesting. So okay, so it added 3 new series, and now we have Mozilla Central twice. Well, that's kind of disturbing. Okay. Okay, so like going back to the code, this is actually kind of out of scope, because I think this problem was always there, but since we're here and this is such an entertaining live coding session, let's take a stab at fixing that. All right, so our add related branches original series. Okay, so if branch does not equal original series project name, then push the branch list. Okay, so here's the thing, is that we don't just want the original series, we want to, if there's existing stuff there that already matches it, we don't want to add it. So I think we actually already have some code in here that does that in the test chooser, because like say for example, we go here, let's load up GP50 summary opt, right? Like, so you take this, you put it in there, it no longer appears in here as an option. And so we add it, and then we add it again. Yeah, see, it's not there. So this idea of filtering out stuff that's already there is kind of not completely foreign to Perfherder graphs. So let's just take a look and see if we can't reuse something that we've already done to do that. Okay, so let's get a little bit more context here. So here's the Angular controller defining this, what's called the test chooser. Blah blah blah. Okay, so it gets instantiated as a modal. We're using the Angular Bootstrap library for that. Okay, but this is all what happens when it starts loading. Unselect test, select test, add related platforms. These are convenience methods. It's probably actually worth reminding ourselves of where is this function even called, right? Okay, so that's passed in. The option to add related stuff is passed in as an option when we're constructing this, and then we do that. Okay, that's sort of neat. All right, so here's the meat where we kind of load up all the stuff, which is I think where the filtering would happen. So getting the framework list, that's a list of performance frameworks. That's to be Talos, build metrics, like other stuff. Update test input, that. It's getting the list of platforms, which we use to kind of constrain which tests we're showing. Okay, this doesn't have anything interesting. Update test selector. Default platform, get series list. Aha! Filter out tests which are already displayed or are already selected. Okay. So this uses something called tests displayed. Interesting. Is that passed as an argument? Yes, it is. All right. So, like, see, there's so much context, and like, to be honest, this code it's just not the best. And most of that's my fault, by the way. It's not anybody else's, but it's just the way it is. But you see, it's kind of, I'm kind of jumping around a lot, and I'm just, taking working theories, displaying them, because that's just sort of what you want to do, unless you want to rewrite this whole thing, which I'd love to, but I just don't have time. So, okay, so I think all we want to do is we want to take this test displayed and like filter out the stuff that we add here based on what's there. So if that means anything, I'm not sure, but like, let's just see what that variable looks like. Test this when we call this that function, right? We really only need one series to test this. Okay, so now we're going to call that branch function. And test displayed. Okay, this is great. Yeah, okay, so I think this should be good enough. Okay, so we just need to use that tests displayed logic here. Okay, so let's see how we did it before. So filter out tests which are already displayed or already selected. Okay, so in this case, we don't really care about the tests that are already selected, because in principle, if that function is being called, it's on first load and nothing should be added yet. But we are interested in the tests displayed. So yeah, I think this should do it. I think this should be enough. We'll just downsize it a bit. Okay. I'll just say we don't need this part for each union. We don't need a union for each. Okay. I'm just going to modify this a little bit. Let's add a comment just to make this a bit more clear. Okay. So, yeah. So I'm just reusing this variable series list because it actually doesn't make any practical difference, but it's just, I think it's a little bit more intuitive not to set test to add until, or scope.test to add until it's actually sort of finalized. So, okay, so let's go through each of those elements. We kind of just use the nomenclature test and series interchangeably. I think actually what we want to do is, a for each isn't really the right abstraction here. I guess it's filter. Lodash I think has, except that it's not really filter because we want to make sure that something doesn't match a condition. Well, actually that'll be fine. We'll just have to be careful about how we phrase it. Okay, filter series list, function series, and return. Okay, so we want to see if that series, those series properties are in the test list. So that would be, oh gosh, I'm just blanking here. I'm ridiculous. Is that contains? Contains 1, 2, 3, 1. True. 0. False. Great. Okay. Except that that's not really what we want here. We want to say x colon 1 colon 1. Oops. All right. False. Okay, that's not good. So basically, we want to say if nothing matches this series in the test displayed, then we're good. Okay. So I think we can use map for that, or any. Maybe it's any. Any. True. False. Okay, great. Okay. Any tests displayed. Then we use use those properties. Signature. Except that we don't want to use test, we want to use series. Oh, well, we don't need to use this temporary. We'll just return. Okay, so remember this is somewhat counterintuitive. If any of them match, that means we don't want it to be included. So we only want to include a series if nothing matches, if it's things in test displayed. So let's see how that goes. Oops. So I'm using ESLint, it's hooked up to Emacs, points out simple syntax errors, not as many as I'd like, but it caught that problem, so hey, we're a little bit ahead. All right. Let's just go here, reloaded, click on that. Oops, no related platforms or branches have been found. Okay, so there's some kind of problem with my logic. Oh, haha, I'm just too clever. Right, so we actually wanted to set this here. Scope test to add, right? I'm 36, I'm getting Alzheimer's. Well, not Alzheimer's, but my memory isn't probably quite what it was 10 years ago. I forget these things. I have to look up context. But actually, in this case, I did remember right. I should probably just have more faith in myself. Anyway, okay. Let's see here. Okay. Let's click on that. Oh, look at that. Mozilla Inbound, Mozilla Central, FX Team, but no Mozilla Beta. Isn't that neat? Okay, great. I think we're on the right track. Dum, dum, dum. Let's load this one more time. Just do an end-to-end test. So you'll note that in this case we have two of the tests, the same test on two branches. So let's just make sure that neither of those appears in that in the test to add list. Looks like it doesn't. Okay, great. Double check that it works. Yep. All right. Awesome. Okay. Actually, while I was working on this, I noticed some other problems. Oh, it just never ends. So, in fact, we should be filtering by performance framework as well. So, you see here that, like if you're adding a new test, we actually have frameworks. And actually, this used to not actually be that important to filter by, but we now have this new category for test framework called talos.aws. And probably foolishly on my part, you can have the exact same performance signature in this bucket as this bucket. So it's actually not really all that awesome at unless you specify the API thing correctly. It's not really great at distinguishing series from this or this. So you kind of get one or the other randomly. I'm going to file a bug for that, but I'm going to do that after this live coding session because this has just really gone on way too long. But it was an additional thing I noticed. In fact, when I do it, it's going to be super simple. We're just going to like add framework, blah, 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 blah here, and that'll restrict it in the appropriate ways. But we really have to just focus on one thing at a time, to get anything done around here. So I think we're pretty good. Let's submit a patch and help people out, and then let's move on to the next thing, because that's just what you have to do. Okay. So what I like to do before, actually creating a patch is just doing a git diff just to make sure it looks the same. You can see here that I still have a console.log, so we should get rid of that. Okay, so that's the original fix. We get a list of lists, filter out tests which are already displayed. Okay, I'm feeling okay about this patch. Like, I think it's pretty good. We took out the clone. I really honestly don't remember why that's there, but it seems to work fine without that logic. So let's just and really this is like we've tested the only code path for this particular function. So in my opinion, it's fine. I think it was probably just added accidentally or like for paranoia, and the reviewer who may have even been me just didn't pick it up. So okay, so I'm pretty happy with things the way they are. Okay, so let's go back to the bug. So I'll show you my whole tree herder committing, asking for review sort of workflow. Okay, so we have a bug number here. I'm going to copy and paste that. So what I do is make sure that I'm on master. Great, I am. So I'm going to check out a branch with Git named after the bug. Okay, so now I'm on a separate branch. I'm going to commit my change. So 1269842 fix getting same series on different branches in perf graphs UI. Okay, I ideally like to keep my commit messages to 60 characters, I think, but because of the convention we have in tree herder, that's a little difficult because we append the bug number at the beginning. Fix getting same series on different branches. Fix automatic. How do we explain this concisely and nicely? I think that's probably good enough. I mean, yeah, you always search for the best way most concise way of expressing things, and I find that I often come up short, but I think this is all right as a commit message. I think, like the main point is that when somebody's looking through the commit log, trying to find somebody to blame, when it goes that far, is that they be able to sort of see roughly what's going on. So, here in our commit message, we have graphs UI, which kind of indicates that it's in Perfherder. Fix getting same series on different branches, that indicates the nature of the change. So somebody just skimming it, I think, will pick up on those keywords and they'll do okay. So I'm going to finish up my commit message. Okay, so then what I do is I push this commit to a branch on my Git remote. So Git remote. So you see, this is just the URL to my own private fork of tree herder. So I just push it there. And a while ago I installed this sort of set of command line tools for interacting with GitHub, which are really nice. It's called a hub command. I'm not sure if hub, I don't know. I'm just going to see if I can't find it. Yeah, so okay, GitHub/hub. GitHub hub helps you win at Git. It's pretty sweet. I really recommend it, especially for interacting with something like tree herder, because you can do what's called, actually it's kind of escaping me right now. Ah yes, hub pull request. So you just type that command, and it lets you automatically create a pull request to the right place, which is the master version of tree herder from your fork. So let's just, yeah, you see it pulled up just a commit message in my editor, just like I did when I was committing. So let's just go ahead and do that. Okay, so it automatically created the pull request there. And oh look, what's this IRC notification? Well, a while back we hooked up this bot called Autolander, written by Kevin. He works at Brave now. I can't remember his last name. But anyway, it's a pretty cool tool. What it does is it watches, for projects which use both Bugzilla and GitHub, like tree herder or Gaia back in the day, what it does is it automatically looks for pull requests written in the right format, which I like this one where you have the bug number, and then it will automatically attach that pull request to the bug, which is really a big sign time saver. And you see in our IRC channel, it just notified us that it did that. So all we have to do here for me to get a review request is to reload this bug and click review, or actually click details. And then I say, so get Joel to review it. So sorry for the delay on this, because I said it would be done tomorrow, but it's now 3 days later. But I think Joel's nice. He probably won't mind too much. Probably what's important to him is the fix. So I usually get him to review my Perfherder fixes, but just because it's not really good form to review your own stuff. If you want to submit a patch to Perfherder, just get me to review it, because at this point I'm probably the person most familiar with the code, but Joel's probably, I guess, the second most familiar. Anyway, so let's just submit that. And great. So I could just stay on the line here and wait for Joel to review. He's actually pretty fast normally, but yeah, let's just call this done for now. So I hope you really enjoyed this and learned something from it. Yeah, if you have any questions, I'm WLACH on IRC pound tree herder or pound A team. And yeah, if this seemed interesting, then yeah, I'd love to see you around and see you doing some similar hacking on Perfherder. So until next time, take care.